Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another Sunday video. In this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing a laptop right here with the RTX 4050 GPU. This is the Asus TUF F15 2023 model, and it features, alongside with that RTX 4050, an Intel Core i7-12700H CPU, boosting up to 65 watts in turbo mode, and 32 GB of DDR4 RAM, 3200 MHz in dual channel. But going back to the component I'm most interested in, that RTX 4050, I wonder why. This is a 100 watt version of the card. It's a mobile-only GPU, and we're not losing any performance with that TDP. It's basically on the higher end for 4050s. It has 2560 CUDA cores, 80 TMUs, 48 ROPs, and 6 GB of GDDR6 memory, which is on the lower end side of things, of course, but it's also a 50 SKU GPU, so there's that. It also features a 96-bit memory bus, which again is very tiny for a gaming GPU, but as we'll see in this video, it actually holds up fine, at least the 100 watt version right here. Now, this laptop was actually pretty expensive to the previous owner. He actually gave me the receipt and he paid 1,600 euros for it 2 years ago. That's a bit crazy actually for a 4050 laptop, but I got it for 600 bucks in the used market, and you can actually find plenty of these even in like CEX with warranty for around 600 euros. Also, I almost forgot, but we need to talk about that screen. It's an IPS 144Hz 1080p screen, 15.6 inches. It's not 16 by 10, it's 16 by 9. Unfortunately, I really like 16 by 10 monitors on laptops these days, but it's a nice and responsive screen. I didn't have a problem playing with it, and I've been using this laptop for a few months now. I've been mainly gaming on it, actually. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I played a lot of it right here, Dota 2 as well, and some other indie titles in my free time. But that's enough intro, let's play some games on the RTX 4050 mobile GPU. Shall we? And first up we got Cyberpunk 2077, looking beautiful here at the 1080p resolution using the high settings preset without resolution scaling enabled, so it's still native 1080p resolution. And I'm also utilizing the medium textures because on high textures it was a little bit more stuttery, it was just slightly more inconsistent, you know. And with ray tracing, which I will test in just a little bit, you'll need medium textures because otherwise you'll run out of VRAM. Anyway, moving on, we're getting very close to 69 FPS average. Can we actually get that at the end of the benchmark run? Maybe, because Bob's Roundabout is a little bit more intensive, so it might drop our FPS. Anyway, as you can see, it's pretty stable, pretty smooth of an experience here, super enjoyable on a laptop like this, and it probably will dip down from 60 FPS from time to time, but it's still a pretty nice experience here. Goodbye! Oh my gosh! You stink of junk food. Are you serious, Bob? Why would you say that to me? I'm on a diet, actually. I'm not thinking of junk food whatsoever. Anyway, 69 FPS average, as I told you, my friends. Beautiful. Very nice stuff indeed. And even though we're not running ray tracing or anything like that, or even ultra settings, it's high settings, it still looks great, but this is not how I would play this game, guys, because the forced TAA in this game is pretty soft at native 1080p resolution, so enabling DLSS with the transformer model in DLAA, which is DLSS 4 by the way, makes it look so much sharper. I'm not sure if you can tell the difference properly on the YouTube video with the compression, but it's night and day basically. It looks like it's in between of 1080p and 1440p resolution at this moment. It increases the sharpness by a whole lot, and it makes things look a lot prettier, of course. Now, we're getting a lot less FPS at the same time, about like 10 to 15 less frames per second, so that means that it will inevitably drop from 60 FPS in various scenarios basically, especially here in Bob's Roundabout. By the way, goodbye Bob again. Alright, let's go around the roundabout right now. We're getting 60 average still, drops into the 50s. It's still playable, it's still not a bad experience, you know, but if you want 60 plus FPS, this is not gonna happen with these settings in DLSS. But there is something in between. That's DLSS quality with 65% sharpness, by the way. And in my opinion, even though this is upscaling from 720p resolution, that's really low, of course, it looks, in my opinion, better than the TAA stuff at native 1080p. So I would play with DLSS quality. It makes your FPS go over 80 frames per second on average. It's always gonna be 60 plus 100% of the time, no matter what. You still got that great sharpness from DLSS. You can't really tell that the game is running at a low resolution. It just works really well. Oh boy, the car is on fire now. We're gonna see an explosion. But okay, well, I still saw the explosion. We got run over, but yeah, some lighting over there. It's pretty. I like it. But what about some ray tracing? Let's do ray tracing ultra preset with quality DLSS, ray reconstruction, medium textures again. And this is it right here, okay? It's very intensive, so I'm not expecting it to do great. And I'm gonna disable some of these settings and set them back down to high. So this is now a blend of high settings preset with ray tracing set to ultra and ray reconstruction as well. I'm gonna restart the game. And here we have it, guys. It looks really good now with these settings. I mean, those reflections on top of the car are now accurate. They look very pretty because of ray reconstruction as well. But it's now starting to stutter a little bit. As you can see, 1% lows are at 13. The VRAM allocation is maxed out now. Ray tracing with a 6GB GPU is not a very good idea, as you can see, even though we're running DLSS quality, which means it's 720p resolution internally. Now I'm gonna try to adjust some things here. I turned off the ray traced lighting as well as the sun shadows. We only have ray traced local shadows and ray traced reflections. Does that make a big difference? Not really. It's still a crappy experience, so yeah, that's basically it for ray tracing, you know. It's never going to be very good in a card like this. And let's move on to the next title. Next up, we have The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. We're here with 60-ish frames per second in this area, which is decent. It means that it will likely drop from 60 FPS from time to time, but it still looks really good anyways, and it's a single-player title, so even if it dips down here and there, it's not the end of the world, is it? Let's go over the settings first. We're playing at the 1080p resolution using DLAA with the transformer model, so it's DLSS 4. It's by far the best anti-aliasing method in this game, by the way. And we're using the medium settings. Yes, without the motion blur, but medium settings is required because we only have 6GB of VRAM. That's a bit of a limitation. If we had 8GB, maybe the high settings would be possible, especially high textures, you know. The major issue that I have here with medium settings is the textures aren't really all that great, honestly, and overall, as a preset, this is lower than PS4 settings level. Alright, let that sink in. Even though, yeah, it dips down into the 50s, as you can see there. It's still a really stable experience anyways, and for a single-player title, it's perfectly adequate performance. Now, the thing is, if I was playing this game on like a 24-inch 1080p display, I wouldn't really utilize quality DLSS. I would live with a couple of dips into the 50s here and there and enable that DLAA for that really crispy visual fidelity. But the thing is, we are running this on a laptop, so we can probably utilize some upscaling here and not notice as big of a difference as there would be on a bigger display. And indeed, no, okay, I can see some pixelation here. DLSS quality version in this game is not really that great. Even with DLSS 4 at 1080p, Cyberpunk's implementation was way better. But if you don't mind just a little bit of noise in the grass, this is also a pretty adequate experience, I would say. I mean, with these settings, we're getting 60 plus FPS 100% of the time. It shouldn't drop anywhere. And we're getting like 80 FPS at the moment on average, which does feel a lot smoother on a high refresh rate panel, which most laptops have, especially with RTX 4050s. Either way is fine, either way is very playable, and I think I would prefer DLAA just because of how crispy that is. Next up, we got the gorgeous Red Dead Redemption 2. It's not so gorgeous right now because we're utilizing TAA, but there is a fix with DLSS 4. I'm gonna show it to you guys, but let's go over the settings first. I am starting at 1080p resolution using Benchmark King's optimized settings for the best visuals to performance ratio. And right now, as I told you, we got that TAA enabled, which is super soft in this title. But all you need to do to get the best AA possible out of Red Dead Redemption 2 is go to the Nvidia app and go to the settings of Red Dead Redemption 2 here. Scroll down until you see DLSS override. Override it with the latest super resolution version, as well as DLSS override super resolution, set it to DLAA, which is not present in the game, and this allows you to use DLAA inside of the game itself. So now let's disable that TAA, go to DLSS, enable it on ultra quality, which is the DLAA stuff, and instead of getting 80 FPS, we're now down to 70 FPS, but the game looks a lot sharper, guys. It is night and day. It's really beautiful like this, and even if it drops a lot of FPS compared to TAA, I think it's worth taking that hit because it's still a stable and smooth experience anyways. Let's go, Roach. I think, yes, I'm hearing Jack. I am hearing Jack. Wait a second, Roach, let's visit that boy. Look at Jack. Jack is here to see us. He also really likes DLSS 4. Oh boy, with the DLAA override here in Red Dead Redemption 2. It's all good, though. It's all good. Let's get out of here. Jack is not really having it. Bob is not here. What? What happened to him? No, I was ready with my lasso to drag Bob and hear him sing, but he's not here. We'll need to find him and kill him in GTA 5, my friends, oh yeah. But as you can see, this is indeed a pretty stable experience, zero stuttering, it's just phenomenal. We can use ultra textures as well, and the VRAM is totally under control. It's an older title, so that's expected, of course. Textures aren't really too high quality, but it looks great with these Benchmark King optimized settings, and it's like they're meant for this GPU to be able to achieve 60 plus all of the time. It's just tweaked to a point of perfection with an RTX 4050. I mean, the GPU is not that powerful. It has 6 gigabytes of VRAM, but you can still have great experiences with it, with great graphics as well. Now we have an easy one to run, Counter-Strike 2 at 1080p resolution using the low settings with 2x MSAA and high textures. This is for a competitive experience, you know, most people play on low. Anyway, let's start counting our FPS right now, and let's get some of them kills. Come on, this is the guy with the auto sniper. We got the bastard. Alright, don't use that crap. Use an AWP like real CS players, okay? There! That was crazy, actually. Okay. Alright, here we go. Another one. Yeah, another one. I'm hitting those flicks, but a little bit late, actually. Ow, you. No, don't kill me over there. Okay. No. So guys, we're actually CPU bound all of the time here with these specs. The 12700H CPU is bottlenecking our 4050, so the GPU utilization is around like 50% most of the time. Yeah, come on, okay. Hello there. What? No, it's the other guy with the auto sniper again. No, the bastards. We gotta get him. We gotta get our revenge with the knife. Oh yes. No, probably not gonna happen. But yeah, guys, if you were playing like competitive mode, for example, you'd get higher FPS and higher GPU utilization. It just doesn't happen here because it's deathmatch. We got a lot of people in the server and it's CPU bound. But it's good enough for us to see that the 4050 indeed does have what it takes to play Counter-Strike. Obviously, it's no surprise to anyone. This is a very easy to run game. Even like a 1050 Ti will run it absolutely fine, and this is a lot better than a card like that, obviously. Yeah, okay, that guy just died. That is until you start playing some unoptimized titles like Oblivion Remastered here at 1080p resolution using the medium settings, okay, with DLAA at the moment. And here we're getting a big stuttery mess, my friends. I mean, this game will stutter even on higher end systems, so that's no real surprise to me, but the fact that we're only getting 30-ish frames per second on medium, which doesn't look all that great, does it? I mean, the water doesn't even have reflections here. Yeah, this is quite bad. I would not recommend an experience like this, honestly. 30 FPS is a bit too low. Also, the VRAM could also be maxed out, by the way. I'm seeing some huge stutters here and there, and the VRAM allocation is at 5.8 gigs. That sometimes means that it already swapped things into RAM, and that's why we saw those major stutters. It could be that, maybe. I'll need to check the low settings as well to see if it stutters this much still, because this is pretty unplayable in my opinion. I wouldn't play like this at all. So medium settings in this game, I thought it would work, but we gotta drop it down to low. There we go, I just restarted. We're back here on low settings. For some reason that RAM usage is already at 19 gigabytes, but we're getting 50s and 40s at times. The game looks even worse at this point, but I guess it's going to be a little bit more playable. Start counting the FPS. Let's see if those 1% lows will reach the teens once again. Probably not. Yeah, it seems to be a little bit better. The VRAM allocation is still at 5.8 gigs. Here we go. We're outside again. Still not reaching 60 FPS. I guess for it to reach 60 FPS, you'd need DLSS quality, basically. On low settings at the same time. Dude, those stutters, dude. Now, on low, you also get a ton of pop-in, as you can see by the grass just popping in right in front of our eyes, right? So you lose a lot in terms of visual fidelity. The performance is still not stable. It's a big mess in this one, unfortunately, guys. Let's finalize it with DLSS on quality. And this way, it does jump up to 60, 70 FPS. So it's going to be a bit more stable this way. Hello there, kind sir. Thank you very much for not killing me and not biting me in the ass. But again, those big stutters are still going to be there. The VRAM allocation and utilization might be a little bit better right now since the game is running at 720p and upscaling to 1080p with the LSS quality. But those bigger spikes will still happen from time to time. And it's just annoying as heck. I can't enjoy a game like this. I'm sorry, guys. I know the game is playable. All right, these FPS that we're getting are playable. But yeah, if you've been wanting to play this game a lot with an RTX 4050 laptop, it is possible. I just don't think it's very enjoyable. Now, the good news is some games that have come out this year that are well optimized actually do run pretty well, which is the case of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 at 1080p high settings, DLSS 4 transformer using native AA, so it's still native resolution, and these are the settings for you to take a look at. And, well, with these settings, we are good for around 60-ish frames per second, which, well, it looks a little bit over-sharpened right now because of the sharpening that I got going on, but it doesn't look bad by any means. The high settings a good compromise between visuals and performance here, and the performance of the GPU itself, since it's in turbo mode and it's boosting to 95 watts or 100 watts maximum, is actually quite good. I usually play this with the LSS quality to achieve 60 plus FPS all of the time in this game. This is one of the games that I've played the most with this laptop right here, and it was a stable experience in the performance mode, which limits the TDP of the GPU, of course, but here with turbo, DLAA is completely enough for that 60 plus FPS experience. This is actually really stable. Frame times are amazing. VRAM allocation is a bit on the edge there, you know, touching 5.9 gigabytes. It might actually run out of it a little bit. But the good thing is, even if it does, this game doesn't stutter. It's really well optimized, as you can see. It's one of those games where you can enable quality DLSS and it will look super great anyways. Just a little bit more noisy once again, just like in The Last of Us Part 2, but in this one I think it works a little bit better than that particular title. So we end up getting 80 something FPS, as you can see, touching 90 frames per second here in forest area with a lot of vegetation. So outside of here in big cities and so on, which are more CPU bound instead of GPU bound, you will achieve 100 FPS, 90 plus FPS. It's gonna be amazing, guys. So yeah, that's it for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I'm just going through the forest right here, getting really nice FPS, 70 plus still. What an awesome game. All of the games should be optimized as well as this one is. And it's also really pretty, again, on the high settings. Next up is Call of Duty Warzone at 1080p resolution, utilizing the Ultra Settings preset with NIS sharpening the image, it's still native there, and very low textures, because on low it was stuttering. So very low textures with 6GB is what you need. Ouch. Wait, I don't remember that building to be that huge. Holy crap, they changed it. Okay, that's interesting. So this is Verdansk 2025, my friends. The first map that came out with Warzone 1, and it's always nice to be back here. It's probably the best Warzone map, actually. Let's start counting our FPS. As you can see, it should be a buttery smooth experience in terms of frame time consistency here. Oh, there's a guy over here. Oh boy, come over here, boy. There, where is he? Where is he? Okay, he's gone, basically. Oh, there he is. Come on. Come on, get over here, dude. Don't run away from El Crespo. Why are you so scared? Oh, my... Well, that's exactly what I wanted to do, because I want to go up here and check out the map from above, you know? Maybe that's a little bit more intensive and not really gets us down into, like, the 80s minimums. So, again, really nice performance for the little laptop that this is. I really like the way Warzone is optimized these days, because in some seasons it would stutter a lot, in other seasons... Hey, hello there. Kind sir, how's it going? I think that was a bot. He was moving in a very weird way. Maybe with a controller, actually. Alright. As I was saying, Warzone used to stutter quite a bit in some seasons, and then it would be fixed. And this time around, it has been stable for a really long time, I think. By the way, some vegetation here, dropping us into the 70s, low 70s at times. But I mean, it's 60 plus all of the time, ultra settings. If you want more, very low settings is there as well, or the minimum settings preset actually, and it's a really enjoyable experience in this one. Next is the recently released Doom: The Dark Ages at 1080p resolution using DLAA and the low settings. And this has forced ray tracing, guys, that's why it's pretty intensive here, but the 4050... I mean, it's low settings after all, but it still doesn't look bad by any means. And the 4050 is doing a fine job, as you can see. 70s, 60s sometimes. It's probably going to drop into the 50s at times, you know, in very intensive scenarios. But right now it's holding its own pretty well. Let's destroy this thing. There we go. Yeah, you can definitely have fun in this one, guys. Even though it forces ray tracing, even though we have a 6GB GPU, I thought it was going to be a little bit of an issue because the game actually asks for an 8GB card for the minimum requirements, the 2060 Super, but no. 6GB cards, this one at least runs pretty well. And should we try like DLSS on quality as well? Frame generation is not a good idea, by the way, because of the VRAM, you know. But quality DLSS lowers that VRAM utilization by a little bit. It still makes the game look pretty, especially on a monitor from a laptop. And I think having 100 FPS is a heck of a lot better of an experience in Doom than 60s dropping into the 50s sometimes. So I think this is how I'd play this game on this laptop, only because the screen is very small. And this is now low settings with quality DLSS at 100 FPS. You can also increase it to like medium settings if you want to. It's probably gonna work absolutely fine as long as you use DLSS quality, of course. So if you prefer that higher visual fidelity experience, medium is still there for you. Just keep the textures set to the minimum, because 6 gigs is a little bit on the edge of playability, basically. Speaking of Unreal Engine 5 titles, now we have Black Myth Wukong, an extremely intensive one at 1080p, utilizing DLSS set to 100%, so it's DLAA. Frame gen is off. I don't know why it's in Chinese now, but we're also utilizing medium settings. And well, the medium settings were actually the default settings for the RTX 4050 in this game, and they seem to get around 60 frames per second. However, that frame time graph is a little bit of a mess just because of UE5 and the optimization of this game not really being there, you know. It's a little bit of a mess. I don't really like to play this game very often, and I don't really like to test it even, because I just get mad at the stuttering, honestly. The VRAM doesn't seem to be an issue in this one, fortunately, even on medium settings, and the game looks pretty good on medium as long as you use some sharpening and DLAA at the same time, because if you use quality DLSS, for example, it becomes becomes a little bit of a mess in terms of visuals. It gets super pixelated, basically. So there's that. A few spikes here and there, as you can see, loading in the new enemies and so on. It is what it is. So given that we have 60 FPS baseline, that's actually decent to enable frame generation on top of. Let's do that. I suppose this is enabled, so let's apply it. And indeed, frame generation is now working to get us around 90 frames per second. It's much smoother in terms of visuals, you know. We still get the odd stutter here and there, but the frame time graph is not as bad as it was before, as inconsistent. And by the way, yes, the frame time graph is not a line anymore, but that's because of how this new frame generation technology works. This new model of FG works a little bit different in terms of the frame pacing. And the frame pacing actually happens after the readings from MSI Afterburner. So that's why it looks like that. But anyway, I think I would actually choose to play like this. It's a much smoother experience because it's not dropping into the 50s anymore. The VRAM seems to be enough for frame generation in this one, which is incredible with 6 gigabytes of it, and medium settings as well. And the game looks good on medium, and it's definitely playable. That's nice. Again, I hate stuttering, but you can play this game and enjoy it. Next we have the finals, guys, and we're playing this one at the 1080p resolution using DLAA, transformer model, static ray tracing, and the high settings. And this is a UE5 title. Can you believe it? It's a UE5 title, and it doesn't have stuttering, and it actually runs with high FPS at 1080p native resolution with high settings, guys. This is how you optimize games, you know. Apparently, UE5 isn't the problem. Going up here, alright, this is the cash out area. Oi, hello, sir. Goodbye, sir. And another one here. Nope, running out of bullets. Come on, come on, come on, come on. I'm really low HP at the moment. What are you doing, buddy? You should be helping me there. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, let's go up here. I'm regenerating health already. All good. Come on, come on. Yeah, this is super nice and stable, guys. Obviously, if you want a high refresher or higher refresh rate experience, there's always the low settings. And if you are competitive in this game, you should use the low settings. But I want to tax the system a little bit here, so we're using high. And it's absolutely fine, as you can see. Still at 100 frames per second. Pretty good stuff. Destroy the turret there. There we go. Alrighty. We're doing this. Masters over here. Alright, double kill right there. Oh, yes. Although we actually lost it. Okay. Whip that fart! No! Gosh! Ah! I got one! I got one! Okay, okay, we're still alive. Let's explode some more farts. Another one down. Alright, alright. Guys, like, this is actually really good. And I'm having a lot of fun here. Invisible boy. Okay, I got him. And let's revive our boy right here. Hey, hello. No, okay, right here then. But yeah, guys, you get the idea. 96 FPS average, 61 1% lows. It's really smooth. It's really great experience here in the finals. Next is Assassin's Creed Shadows at 1080p resolution using DLAA and the medium settings preset with ray tracing GI set to diffuse hideout only. And this is it. Roach, where are you, buddy? I need you, Roach. Hello? I'm calling you. No, but seriously, I wanted to ride Roach around and he's not coming. He's not obeying. What the heck is happening, Roach? Anyway, let's start counting our FPS. We're getting around 40-ish frames per second here, which is not too bad. It's definitely a playable experience in a single-player title, right? Not amazing. It's not 60 frames per second, unfortunately, but this game is so intensive that I will take this performance, all right? Especially with a 6 GB card. Now, in most titles, for you to enable frame generation and have an input lag or low input lag experience, you'd need at least like 60 frames per second baseline, you know? But in this title, it works a little bit differently. For some reason, the frame generation actually works really well at like 40 plus frames per second, and you can't tell the input lag, of course, but it's not obnoxious and it's still very playable if you enable it on top of 40 FPS. So here we have the frame generation. Let's use Nvidia DLSS FG, of course, and I will sharpen the image slightly more, okay? Also, VRAM budget is right on the limit there. And now, yeah, That feels really good, guys. I mean, it's now a smooth experience. It's still really responsive in terms of input lag. I can't really accurately tell you the input lag numbers, unfortunately, because in this game you can't really read that. But trust me, guys, this is definitely how I'd play this game, even with 70 FPS with frame generation, which in other titles would be a terrible experience in terms of input lag. Over here, it's just fine. It feels really good. Unfortunately, we need to have that ray tracing set to hideout only, which means disabled in pretty much the entirety of the world aside from your shelter. But yeah, if you want to use ray tracing with a 6GB card, it's already struggling for VRAM right now. So it's not a good idea, and you're better off just keep it this way. Now, it's the good old GTA 5, but the enhanced edition of it, which is more intensive at 1080p, very high settings, no ray tracing, because as soon as you select a ray tracing preset, the VRAM gets maxed out. It is what it is. We're using DLAA right here, and I'm also going to disable motion blur or lower it down to the minimum. Here we have it, guys. Game looks great like this. There's no need to utilize ray tracing, you know, like you still got reflections and so on. They're just not as accurate as the ray trace reflections. There's also the ray trace lighting in the shadows, but it still looks very similar. It's GTA 5 anyways, right? And this way, you can have 115 FPS average right now with 1% lows in the 80s. And it's a very smooth, stable experience, no stuttering whatsoever. It's just awesome. It's also using DX12 now with this new version instead of DX11. Boy. But I'm glad to see that at least it doesn't stutter because I said that and we actually got the first stutter I've seen in a while in GTA 5. It was probably just to shut me up, right? And to test ray tracing. I guess we shall test some ray tracing a little bit later, okay? But let's finish the benchmark run. We're here in Jack's Hill now, getting down into the 80s and 70s. Big drop right here, all right? And Jack, hello, buddy. How's it going? Oh, beautiful, Jack. Finally seeing you again in GTA 5. Goodbye, Bob. There it is. Now the benchmark run is complete. We got 69.1% lows at the end. Perfect stuff. 107 average. It's a great experience. Okay, so instead of using very high settings, now I want to use like the very high RT settings. As you can see, this is on the red now, but it says that the video memory is still enough. It's just the other apps are using a little bit more. It shouldn't matter though. So let's apply this. It enables all of the ray tracing features here on very high, and this is quite nice. Okay. Is this the first game that we can actually play flawlessly with ray tracing at native resolution on this card? Probably. I will need to restart though, just to make sure that everything applied properly. Oh, it does work, guys. Ray tracing very high settings. And I mean, it could drop from 60 FPS inside of the bushes, Bob's bushes, you know. But yeah, it's not bad over here. 70s, 80s, we do lose a little bit of FPS, but not as bad as I thought it would be. So the 4050 is doing a decent job with ray traced GTA. The thing is, now the reflections and the lighting, global illumination, etc. are more accurate, but that doesn't mean that they're prettier. Because the reflections, for example, again, they are more accurate, but they're really noisy. So this game heavily needs ray reconstruction. I keep mentioning this every single time I go back to GTA 5 Enhanced. But anyway, if you fancy some RT in GTA, you can definitely do it. Over here, it's still dropping to about the same values. Not now. Dropping into the 60s this time around. Hello, Jack. How's it going? Jack in beautiful ray tracing. Very nice. So yeah. It's doable, and we're not even utilizing like the LSS quality or anything. This is quite surprising. Okay, let's go inside of the bushes, and even Bob's bushes are no match for us, my friends. Right now, it's dropping into like 60 FPS. Goodbye, Bob! So 60 was the minimum, 90 is the average, with RT very high. Turns out the ray tracing isn't really useless on the 4050. Indiana Jones and the Great VRAM Requirement is next. We're playing at 1080p, utilizing the lowest settings here. Well, not lowest. Some things are... It's the low settings. Upscaling is set to native AA. Okay, every time I try to use DLAA or select DLSS for that matter, it crashes. And every time I try to change the settings, it also crashes. So you're stuck with lowest settings. It's a blurry mess with TAA enabled. It's smooth somehow, but I can't really say whether or not this is going to stay smooth or not crash whatsoever, because with the RTX 2060 that I tried here in this game, I couldn't even get to play the game in that video, you know? So sometimes it might work, other times it might not be able to launch it, and maybe in some other situations, other areas of the game, it will need a little bit more VRAM and it doesn't have it, and it could crash, for example. So yeah, you can see that the VRAM allocation is pretty much maxed out at this moment. The usage is at 5.3, 5.4 gigabytes, but we should go by the allocation. A lot of games don't even fully utilize the VRAM on the usage number there, only on allocation. It's still running out of VRAM, so yeah, there's that. It's smooth, though, for what I can tell here in this section of the game. But I would definitely not recommend you to buy this game if you have a 6GB GPU. That's a bad idea. Now it's Hogwarts Legacy. We're at 1080p with DLSS quality because there's no DLAA, and TAA looks really bad in this one, and it's a mess, this game, in terms of softness and anti-aliasings. But yeah, DLSS quality looks decent on a small screen. Ultra settings, yeah, ultra settings without ray tracing, and the 4050 that was a huge amount of stuttering at the beginning, but okay. It's stabilized now. It's because we just started, and this is also Unreal Engine 4, not 5. It's Unreal Engine, so it stutters, okay? I also think it might actually be running out of VRAM, maybe, but the VRAM allocation is at 5.3 gigabytes, so I don't know for sure, but if I start counting the FPS, the 1% lows are already very low values. But flying around this area, it's somewhat stable. We still have the traversal stuttering from Unreal Engine, obviously, that's not going anywhere, but the frame time is not too bad. Basically, you can have an enjoyable experience in Hogwarts Legacy, even on ultra settings. If you want 60 plus FPS all of the time, there's always like high settings or medium settings. High still looks very good, very similar to ultra here, so go down that route if you prefer that. Obviously, while keeping DLSS on quality, because again, if you want native resolution, you have like TAA high and TAA low options, both of which look blurrier than DLSS here on quality, which is insanely weird. But yeah, this is one of the softest games that I've seen in recent years, and it actually looks better in my eyes with DLSS quality than without it at native TAA. Now we have PUBG! Let's get wrecked, shall we? We're playing this one at the 1080p resolution using ultra settings with 100% resolution scale. And as you can see, this is no problem whatsoever for the RTX 4050 laptop GPU, as well as the i7, because right now it's maybe a little bit CPU bound. GPU usage is not maxing out, yeah, 80% sometimes. This is also Team Deathmatch, so it's a little bit more CPU intensive than usual because we got a ton of people in this small space. But yeah, guys, if you want to have a little bit of PUBG action and fun, well, don't play it because you're always gonna get wrecked. No, I'm kidding. It's hard to believe that I used to be a good player in PUBG, right? Just, you play other games that aren't as clunky, and when you're not used to the clunkiness anymore, it's really hard. It's really hard to play this one. Yeah, it's starting to stutter a little bit more, guys. This game has some stuttering issues sometimes because it's an Unreal Engine 4 title, so that's expected. In some seasons it's better than others, but this one seems to be a little bit inconsistent, alright? Oh, we lost! I wasn't expecting that. Now it's Fortnite at 1080p resolution using DirectX 12, the high settings preset, but I disabled Nanite, which also disables Lumen, which is ray tracing and is very intensive. Okay, here we have it. Let's start counting our FPS. Noticed how I said Fortnite and not Stutternite? Yes, my friends, I was playing this for a little bit before I started recording, and I didn't really see all that much stuttering. Obviously, it still has a spike here and there, but most of the time it's a really smooth experience. As you can see, 100 plus frames per second on average right now, 64 1% lows because we saw that little spike there. But yeah, it runs really well, which is a little bit of a surprise because usually when I test laptops in Fortnite or like mini PCs, for example, it's a stutter fest and it's not enjoyable to me whatsoever. Unless the game has had like a recent patch and now it's running a lot better. Yeah, it usually stutters quite a bit. But here, with this laptop, maybe because we actually have some really good CPU power to back the 4050 up, it runs really well. No, please don't die. Okay, there we go. There we go. Whoa! Okay, now we're dropping in a little bit of a different area. Okay, we've seen the FPS inside of a forest area, and now let's go to this city part of the map. It's Crime City. Let's start counting our FPS. Maybe I'm just gonna grab the car and drive around, otherwise I might actually die in a second. So, as you can see, 100 plus FPS still. Bit more stuttering here actually, so after all it is stutter night. Yeah. Maybe it's just because this is loading this area for the first time today. But anyway, now that we are out of that Crime City area, we're getting pretty stable results around this area. Lots of grass as well. I like the color palette here. And it's still 100 plus FPS. Stutter mess. Okay. Never mind. Oh boy, why? Why are you like this stutter night? I was praising you. I thought this was one of those times where it's going to be smooth, but not really. If you lock the FPS, it could be a little bit smoother as well, so keep that in mind. Next up is Marvel Rivals. We're playing this one at 1080p using DLSS native, so it's DLAA with sharpening there, no frame generation, and the lowest settings for a more competitive experience. A lot of people play on low in this one. Let's start counting our FPS, and we're getting 130s, 140s. It's pretty stable, even though this is a UE5 title, but it needs to be stable because it's a competitive shooter at the same time. And although I don't like to see UE5 and competitive shooter in the same sentence, this is actually running all right on an RTX 4050 laptop. As you can see, 90s. You can also enable some frame generation, but that's gonna add a bit more input lag, so in these multiplayer shooters I prefer to have that disabled, but I will still try it out in a little bit so you guys can see what it can do with some FG enabled. Again, pretty decent for a laptop. It's smooth, it's playable, it's enjoyable. I'm gonna die, maybe, yes. So it's about time for us to try that frame gen. Okay, so let's use 2x FG and NVIDIA DLSS FG as well. And if you prefer that smoother, high refresh rate experience all of the time, well, frame generation might be for you. The input lag addition is not too noticeable, although it's there. So again, if you are super competitive, you might as well just turn it off. Maybe utilize some DLSS super resolution instead. But yeah, it's working fine. You know what, let's try like quality DLSS here plus frame generation, and here we can actually hit 200 FPS finally. That's what I like to see when frame gen is enabled, you know. Although again, for a game like this I would leave it disabled, but it all depends on who you are. Are you a super competitive person? Then leave it disabled. Are you someone who enjoys high refresh rate experiences? Then maybe use this, because right now, with 200 FPS, I can't really notice much input lag, quite honestly. Now it's Elden Ring, my friends, and this one is capped to 60 frames per second, as usual. In Elden Ring, it has some screen tearing as well, because G-Sync isn't working for some reason in this game. But yeah, the game feels smooth, it's super playable like this. Obviously, most people are playing with 60 FPS. There's a mod to uncap the frame rate, but it makes the game way more stuttery, so I'll I'd leave it like this, play on high settings, which is what we're playing on. I have forgot to show you that, but yes, we're on high settings in 1080p native resolution here, as you can see. All right, I just disabled the motion blur there, and with 50 to like 80% GPU utilization all of the time, it means that you still have some headroom whenever like big fire thingies happen, effects and so on, which are more intensive. It should still stay close to 60 frames per second and be a pretty enjoyable experience. So pretty good result here for Elden Ring. Now it's DayZ at 1080p resolution using the extreme settings preset, guys, and well, it runs quite well, as you can see, 70-ish frames per second. If I zoom into the forest there, okay, it's now starting to drop a little bit. Start counting our FPS as well. Let's try to find a little city. Oh yes, that one down there will definitely do for the benchmark run. But first of all, I want to see it inside of the forest, because usually it's a little bit more intensive here on the GPU side of things, and then cities are a little bit more CPU bound. But as you can see, no stuttering, which feels pretty good. You know, that frame time graph is actually really flat, and this game runs on pretty much a potato. I have tested this a week ago on Intel Xe graphics integrated on the 13900HX processor, and it ran absolutely fine on that. So feel free to go with this. This will run absolutely fine. As you can see, the CPU temperatures are reaching 100 degrees Celsius, though. That's a little bit concerning. Okay. Oh no, we got zombies. We got zombies after us. No. Okay, at least we got to the little city with a lot of houses, and indeed, it is less intensive on this system than the forest areas. I'm just gonna die now, probably. Well, guys, that's DayZ for you. It's actually running really well, and it's a very enjoyable experience on this laptop. Nice. Next is a really intensive title, Alan Wake 2, and we're playing this one at 1080p using DLSS quality and the low settings preset, which still looks pretty good in my opinion, but this has a few stutters here and there. I'm not sure why. I've already done the benchmark run twice, and I keep seeing this weird frame time graph with a lot of spikes here and there, maybe because it's a laptop, maybe, I don't know, guys, but it's still a playable experience, although it doesn't even reach 60 FPS. That's really unfortunate, by the way. Also, it could be running out of VRAM. I don't know. The allocation there is pretty high. But hey, at least this is using DLSS 4, so the game still looks pretty good, even though it's using DLSS quality at 1080p res. It's detailed. It doesn't look like you're using DLSS. It just looks like TAA, for example. It's a little bit blurry, you know. But yeah, it works. And this frame rate is actually pretty decent for us to enable frame generation on top of. So I'm going to try using 2x FG. Hopefully it's not going to stutter more because of VRAM. VRAM allocation went up instantly, as you can see there. Yeah, it's definitely smoother, turning the camera around and so on. It actually feels better, in my opinion. And in a game like this, single-player title, I would recommend frame generation in a third-person game as well. It's a slower-paced game. So yeah, it works quite well like this, and now we can enjoy a higher refresh rate experience, although still a little bit stuttery one. And now we have Forza Horizon 5 at 1080p resolution using TAA, the Ultra Graphics preset, but I needed to lower down the textures too high, which still look pretty good, but, you know, it's a sacrifice because of those 6GB of VRAM. Let's start counting the FPS, and as you can see, the 4050 does an amazing job here in Forza, getting 100 plus frames per second all of the time, I guess. I mean, we still need to get to that big city where it's more intensive and see the tunnel area, but yeah, this is really strong performance to start this off. And I mean, it's just amazing optimization here from the Forza Horizon 5 developers, really. This is a big open world, lots of things to do, it looks great, and the frame time is super stable, and the FPS are super high as well. And we're finally here in the city area. We lost our spoiler as well, so the car is actually pretty ugly at the moment, unfortunately. But as you can see, it's not slowing down one bit, still at 120s, 130s. And now for the ultimate, most intensive thing that we can do in this game, going inside of this tunnel here. Oh my driving's very very good usually. Okay. And 110 FPS dropping down to 103 FPS on the absolute minimum. It's a flawless experience in Forza. This is awesome. And it is conclusion time, guys. As usual, I'll still have more games running right here while we talk a little bit about the performance and the experience with the RTX 4050 laptop GPU and those pesky 6GB of VRAM. So, first of all, it performed better than I expected in many of the games that we played here today. Of course, it will struggle if you increase the textures and if you increase the settings in very demanding titles, really intensive ones, and some broken ones with UE5. But anyway, the 6GB of VRAM are definitely a bit of an issue, like Warzone, for example, which is a game that usually runs really well with a wide variety of hardware. I needed to lower down the textures to very low. And it made the game look pretty bad, honestly, in terms of texture quality. You saw it. So yes, the 6GB of VRAM were definitely a downside for the RTX 4050 GPU right here, and with 8 gigs it would have performed a little bit better in some of the games, and it would have delivered more visual fidelity, basically. That doesn't mean that it was a bad experience, because in many of the games that we played here today, I thought it was just gonna struggle a lot because of lack of VRAM, and it was gonna be a pretty bad experience because of the 50 tier GPU, you know. But it turns out I was fine with it. Honestly, I've been playing games on this for the last few months, as I told you in the intro, and as long as you don't want to play the latest unoptimized titles, basically, well-optimized games, even recent ones, such as Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which I've had a lot of fun with this laptop right here, it runs absolutely fine. So is a laptop like this worth $600 in the used market? Yes and no, it depends on your local deals, honestly. If you can grab an RTX 4060 laptop instead, those extra 2GB of VRAM will come in handy, and it's around 10-15% faster as well, depending on the TDP, of course. But I'm not mad with my investment right here. That i7-12700H CPU is also a little bit of a beast, honestly. But with all of that said, I think that's been it for this one. Let me know what you thought of the performance of the 4050 here. Did it exceed your expectations like it did to me, or was it just meh? Hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, love you all. Bye-bye.